Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of I Hate Your Taste in Movies. This is a movie podcast where we make our friends watch our favorite movies and watch and see if our friendship survives. I'm Jackie.
I'm Jen.
I'm Austin.
And you can follow us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste and on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. So today promises to be controversial, I think. We're doing an Austin pick. Yay!
Yes.
What are we doing, Austin?
Today we're doing Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which is a 2001 movie directed by and starring John Cameron Mitchell, based on a 1997, I believe, off-Broadway show. So have either of you guys heard of Hedwig before? What's your history with it?
I'd heard of it, but I wasn't super familiar with it. So I didn't know any of the songs. I didn't necessarily know the story, but I had definitely heard of Hedwig, and I think I'd seen kind of images of Hedwig. I think some celebrities have done it maybe on Broadway, and I've been aware of it through that, but that's kind of the extent of my knowledge.
Did you come up with a summary guess of some kind?
I did. It's not very thorough. I put down Hedwig is a drag queen / trans ? I was not sure. Lead singer of a punk band. Then I put not sure about the plot. Is it their lead up to fame, turning down mainstream success so that you're not a sellout? I don't know. So I knew it was about a punk band, and that was kind of the extent of it.
It is kind of about their growth to fame, so you had that. Jackie, what about you?
I knew, I think, less than Jen. I knew there was the name Hedwig, and I knew they were a blonde person. I know Neil Patrick Harris performed as Hedwig. And I've always, okay, this is going to get weird and you might want to cut it. But Neil Patrick Harris has always seemed like a very, obviously sexual person to me. Him as Hedwig would be very, licking his lips a lot. You know what I mean? When he wants to, he's very, in your face sexual. So I could see him doing this very well.
We're keeping that in, and also at some point this evening, I'm sharing my screen with you, and we're watching Sugar Daddy from the Tony Awards. It'll be great.
I do agree. He's amazing. Every time he hosts the Tony Awards, he does crazy stuff. But all I wrote for my summary was a bunch of words put together without any sense. It's drag queens, something about castration, Neil Patrick Harris, musical ? Small penis ? So I wasn't sure if he was born with an inch or if it became an inch.
But you knew what the inch was.
I had an idea, I think.
I didn't write that down, but then later in the movie it did kind of click. Oh yeah, I did know that is why it's called Angry Inch. So there was that floating around somewhere in my brain as well.
Yeah, I forgot to talk about my history with the movie. I don't have a huge one. I saw Neil Patrick Harris on Broadway in 2014. Before he won the Tony for it, so I could still afford tickets. And then I watched the movie sometime after that, and then kind of forget that it exists. So figured it'd be a fun movie to start the year off on for my turns. My first movie of 2021. It's good music. So I thought, I don't know, I figured Jackie probably wasn't going to like it. I figured Jen was a crapshoot. I'd like to find something that she likes, so we'll see.
So is this one for you where you're more familiar with the musical on Broadway than the movie yet again?
I'm honestly not super familiar with either. I've only seen the musical once and I've seen the movie once, and I've listened to the soundtrack. So that's about it. I delved in quite a bit over the weekend and did a fair amount of research, so I have the musical's a little bit fresher in my memory than it was before that, but yeah, I'm kind of equal playing field on this one.
Okay.
So you guys didn't think that this movie had a plot, which confused me. But I figured because it's kind of done in a non-linear way and it's not super clear, and I'm assuming a lot of people probably haven't seen this movie, I thought I'd give a pretty thorough synopsis of it rather than just a little blurb, and I figure that'll help us with talking about it as we go. So it's a little more detailed than it would normally be, but this is what I have. So most of the story is told through Hedwig's dialogue with the audience at her shows and through a series of flashbacks. Hedwig is a genderqueer rock musician who grew up in East Berlin listening to American rock music. Originally, he was born Hansel, but Hedwig fell in love with an American GI named Luther and underwent a botched gender reassignment surgery in order to marry Luther to escape East Germany. Hansel became Hedwig, and they moved to Junction City, Kansas. Their marriage ended, and soon after, Hedwig developed a romantic relationship with Tommy. She mentored him, and the two wrote songs together. Tommy eventually left Hedwig and became a famous musician and stole her songs. Hedwig and her band, the Angry Inch, is following Tommy around, shadowing his tour, but instead of the packed stadiums that Tommy's playing in, Hedwig and the Angry Inch are stuck playing in a chain of seafood restaurants across the country. It's also a story of self-discovery and identity as Hedwig struggles to figure out who exactly she is, independent of the people around her, and also her desire to find her other half. She's currently married to Yitzhak, her bandmate who dreams of putting on drag but is forbidden to by Hedwig. She briefly reunites and reconciles with Tommy, but they end up smashing the car into a news truck and attract a bunch of paparazzi attention. This starts to tank Tommy's career, but shoots Hedwig to fame. Hedwig and the Angry Inch end up playing in Times Square. During the performance, Hedwig eventually breaks down and rips off her drag. She passes the wig to Yitzhak and eventually departs the stage, nude, and with a newfound tentative acceptance of who she is. As John Cameron Mitchell has put it, she is a, quote, beautiful gender of one. So that's kind of the plot. We get flashbacks throughout it, and then it kind of catches up to present day, and we see a little bit at the end.
Can I ask you a question straight off the bat of something I just wanted to clarify for myself while I'm thinking of it? Is Yitzhak's gender ever established?
So Yitzhak is a male, but it's always performed by a woman.
Okay, so it's a woman actress, but the character Yitzhak is supposed to be a male without much difference, and he wants to be a drag.
Yeah, so
because I was like, this is a woman who is like drag kinging, but also wants to drag queen when she's drag kinging. I was just very confused.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of gender bending, and gender doesn't really it means a whole lot, but it also doesn't, because that's kind of the point of Hedwig figuring out who she is and Yitzhak. In the musical, they are a little bit more specific. Yitzhak used to be a drag queen in Croatia, and he performed under the name Crystal Nacht. And then when he got together with Hedwig, Hedwig forbid him from performing in drag ever again, because this is kind of getting into it, but Hedwig doesn't want to be kind of outshone or doesn't want to not be the most feminine in the band. So forbid him from doing drag, and so that's kind of why we see him yearning for it in the movie.
That makes sense. But
quick follow-up question about Yitzhak. Is that name ever spoken in the movie? Because when you said it, that was the first time I heard it. Who the fuck was Yitzhak? Like, what?
It must be.
Not.
I don't know.
Did you, Jackie, did you ever hear this name?
No, I only ran into it when I looked up the Wikipedia summary after.
Yeah, like, they never say...
That's funny.
Like, I was like, this is Hedwig's, like, bandmate / romantic partner, I guess, but, like, I don't think they ever had a name.
Whoops.
I will say that it's kind of necessary for Yitzhak to be played by a female character, or by a female actress, I think, because the female actress's singing really makes a huge difference to a lot of Hedwig's songs. Like, it needs that range.
I think that's why they originally cast a woman in the role in the off-Broadway production, and then it just kind of opened all these other doors to playing with gender and what that means and stuff.
Yeah, I did sort of have similar thoughts to Jackie about it, because I also didn't realize that character was like a female actress playing a male character. I thought it was supposed to be like a trans man, and then I was like, is this about like detransitioning? Like, what is this movie saying in that regard? That's like a big complex issue to throw in as a side plot, but nope, that was just me reading too much into it.
Well, no, I think there's a lot to tackle in this movie, and this was the other thing I wanted to kind of say off the bat, is that, like, obviously the language and the vocabulary has evolved a lot since the movie came out and since the show came out. And I also do want to be careful, because Hedwig is a pretty important has an important role in the LGBT community. It's been so, as a cis het woman, I don't want to misspeak or, overstep, right, or presume. So I did try to dive in, and there are a lot of questions about whether or not Hedwig's a trans woman. Some productions put more weight in that than others, but I did find a quote from John Cameron Mitchell that says that Hedwig's a genderqueer character who goes by feminine pronouns. So I think that's what we should go with as we discuss.
Good call.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to get real touchy. Like, this is a very heteronormative perspective I have.
Mhm.
I'm not that versed in this culture or community, even though I wouldn't mind learning.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm going to have opinions that are going to make sense, and I don't know if they're going to be good. So I want Austin to be liberal with the edit switch, because
You know what? Like,
Dewey
that is a
confused the hell out
blanket
of me.
statement for me in all episodes, whatever we're talking about. Like, I don't know if it's going to make sense. I don't know if it's going to be good. Cut me to pieces.
That is not my blanket statement. I want my opinion preserved in all times except for today.
Fair enough.
And I just mean that it really confused me. And it's embarrassing to be confused, but it's also valuable to admit that, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I did want to mention that off the top. Yeah, there's a lot more to it than I remembered, to be honest.
Do we want to start right with a question I have about Hedwig's gender identity?
Sure.
I got the impression that, Hedwig was experimenting with wigs and things like this. But then the whole sex change thing seemed to be pushed onto her by her mom and Luther.
Yeah.
Like, she never expressed a desire to transition into a woman.
Yeah.
Which makes me very uncomfortable with what ends up happening to her. And the fact that now she's so confused. She doesn't have anything she identifies with. She can't figure her life out. Like, it just seems like she's a victim. It's parallel to like genital mutilation. It's not her desiring to become a woman. It's her dealing with the consequences of other people's actions.
Yeah. I mean, it was to get out of East Germany.
But they never asked her. She
No,
even
I
says,
know.
like, I was pushed and they dragged me
Yeah.
and all this.
That's kind of how I felt about it too, which is why I'm like, I don't know if I would have called that like a trans character, because it seemed kind of like she was just pushed into having that surgery and didn't really want it, and that's what led to a lot of her trauma later on, where she's dealing with who am I, what am I, how do I feel about myself or the world around me. It's kind of because they like forced her into this, and it was that's rough, like,
well, and
shitty.
Yep.
One of my favorite songs is Wig in a Box, and which is I always thought of as being like she's finding herself and like she's, she can be whoever she wants, and then obviously the lines are, and then I come home and take off the wig and I turn back to myself. So like there's that like other side of the coin to it, but I always thought that song was more of a Hedwig's finding herself and she's becoming more comfortable, and like, but it's real, like this time watching it, it was very much like, okay, so she's just adopting this Hedwig persona. So Hedwig was her mother's name, and in order to get out of East Germany, Luther, who was an American GI, proposed that they get married, but in order to get married and move to the States, Hedwig would have to be a woman, and there would be a physical examination. So that's why she underwent a gender reassignment surgery that was botched. Yeah, and so I think that when she got to America, and then Luther left, and that wasn't a good Junction City, Kansas, that wasn't a whole lot better to her than her small apartment in East Berlin. And but when she like went with Wig in a Box, like I think it's more just like, okay, she's accepted this Hedwig character and it's a persona. And so I don't think I really quite realized that, and that made the end make a lot more sense this time around, where it's not a binary, it's just she's just figuring out who she is. And
yeah, she might try on a bunch of different characters until she figures out who she is, right?
Yeah.
Like, this was one character, one chapter, and now she kind of at the end is looking a little Tommy Gnosis-y.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a character she's going to try. Do you know what the funniest character thing that happens in this movie? So Luther is despicable, monster, hate him, not forgiving him. But when he leaves Hedwig, he just shrugs and then finger guns and then walks out the door. And I was like, that is the best way anyone has left anyone in the history of time. I was like, ooh, damn, he's almost cool. But then I was like, no, he sucks. He's the worst. The man's got style.
I was afraid at first. I forgot how old Hedwig was when she left Germany. And I was like, oh no. Like, was Hansel a child when he met Luther? But no, he was 26, so it's not.
But then also, wasn't Tommy 17?
Yes, I did catch that though.
Okay, because I didn't catch Hedwig's age, but that was something that I was, and I'm like, they said 17. What age is she right now? Because I feel like it's not 17.
She's got to be at least like 30, right?
Yeah. Not great.
She says she was in her late 20s when she met Luther.
Oh, yeah. She was like, it was the mid 90s and I was into my mid to early 20s or something. There's a line there that was pretty funny. We could talk about Hedwig's childhood a bit.
Sure.
Because I feel like it's not explicitly said, but heavily implied. Her dad was molesting her, right? Because they're in a bed together.
And then the mom freaks out,
right?
Oh, geez, yeah.
That's how I took it, too. Like, again, it wasn't very, like, explicitly stated. They were just in a bed, and then all of a sudden the mom's freaking out and throwing him out. And I kind of was like, I think this is they're trying to say he was molesting Hedwig, but I wasn't 100% sure either, so... The first, I'd say, like, half hour of this movie, which is when they're mostly covering Hedwig's early childhood, was the first... I was really not 100% sure what was happening yet. I hadn't figured this movie out. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things where I'm like, was I supposed to pick that up? I don't know. Like,
yeah, I'm honestly not sure if I did pick it up. I did notice him... Yeah, no, you're totally right. I should have clued into that. That's embarrassing.
Dude, I've realized something really awful about myself and movies. I've become completely dependent on closed captioning.
Yes.
I can't understand what's being said if it's not closed captioning, especially when it's a musical. I need the words spelled out. I figured out. This is the thing I wanted to tell you, Austin.
Okay.
My parallel to when you can't follow action and bullets and stuff and you think it's boring is me with songs. Because I can't pick out the lyrics enough to understand it. So it's just noise. And it's not songs I've heard before. So I've always been a person who I like a song if I've listened to it like 10 times and then I know it. When I hear a song for the first time, I don't usually have any reaction to it at all because I don't know it. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's going. Like it's at that point, I'm not a very musical person. So it's just noise. So when Hedwig is singing and I don't know the lyrics and the music is just music, I'm like, this is the most boring thing I've ever watched. Like I'm getting nothing out of it. Nothing. It's not impacting me at all. Later, I read some of the lyrics. I read through all the songs and read all the lyrics.
Oh, wow.
And things made a lot more sense. But this is where I needed closed captioning to have followed any of it. Because I was like,
sorry, the version that we had didn't have closed captioning.
No, I can't blame you for that. I thought about stopping it and buying it. And then I was like, no, I hate this too much. I can't spend money on this. But it was just like, it was the whole first, you said like half an hour. I think like hour was just, I wasn't following the fact that it wasn't linear and half of it was expressed in song and this and up and down. I was very confused about a lot of it. I think I got it once I finished it, watched or read the Wikipedia page and read some of the lyrics.
Kind of processed it a little bit.
Yeah. But it just made me think this is what you must be feeling when it's a shootout. And you just, it doesn't make sense and you don't care.
Yeah, well, you just kind of get glazed over and it's just like, it's just happening.
Yeah. That was it. So I understand you better now.
Oh, I'm so glad
we're growing.
Well, since you mentioned it, should we talk about kind of the way it's laid out? As it is very, I did forget how nonlinear it was.
I don't even know. I would like to, but what can you even say? It's half of it is these horrible, creepy ass animations, which were so disgusting and disturbing. I've realized also the entire aesthetic of this movie and in general punk music and that kind of dirty punk vibe. I hate it. It's not me at all. I'm much more, I want things kind of more organized and clean. I can't watch it. It makes me, and I know that's the whole punkist thing is like get uncomfortable and be in it and like experience the extremes of life and all. I'm just like, I can't.
It feels grimy a little bit.
Right? It's not me. It's not who I am. It's like horror movies too. I can't get into this like this gross vibe.
Into the grimy, gross vibe. Come on.
I don't know, man. See, even when I do my job and I'm actually dealing in pounds of flesh, it's in a clinical, sterile environment, right? Like it's not, this movie just, with one caveat, Hedwig's clothes are amazing.
Right?
Cannot find fault with the outfits. My God, I wish I could wear any of it. I wanted this, when she's doing the performance to one person in that field near the power.
Yes, I love that scene.
And
I loved that outfit.
So massive.
And her hair was like crimped. It was so cool.
Yeah, really cool. clothes are amazing. But the rest of it, everything going on around these crowded, dirty motel rooms with a random baby and the horrible animations with like people being split in two, just hated it. Ugh, gross.
Yeah, the animations were not my favorite. I don't know, like I said, it was that first kind of chunk of the movie was really like, it was a struggle for me to get through. And then once I kind of picked up the rhythm of the movie, where I was like, okay, she's explaining her life story and then there's a song about it. Like, that's it. There's no, like we were saying, there's no plot. It's just, I'm telling you my life story and then I'm also singing about it. And then I'm telling you the next thing that happened and then also singing about it. I was like, okay, now I can understand what's happening in that sense. But yeah, like the animations was just that. I think it was pretty early. It was like the second or third song where she was singing about her childhood, and then it was all animated. And that's when I was just like, I think that's when I sent you guys a message that said like, I don't understand what I'm looking at. I was like, I was struggling through that one. So then, not a fan of the animation.
Yeah, I think it's like the background to when they're performing. I think they have like a screen going with the animation. Yeah, that main animation is The Origin of Love, which is like telling the story about how originally there were three sexes. There was and they were two people rolled up in one, like back to back. There was a man and woman, a woman and a woman, and a man and a man, and then the gods came along and split them in half. And so the rest of your life you're spent trying to find your other half that you were torn away from.
Yeah, like I got like metaphorically Hedwig was looking for her quote unquote other half, and I was like, okay, I get that. That's also why they've added the like East Berlin aspect where it's like we were two halves and the wall came down and now we're a whole, but we still don't feel whole because there was a whole like long process of the people in Germany trying to live with one another and the different ways of life, and that's kind of like I got like the metaphor of it, but just like the literal animation of it, I was hating every second.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the animations, to be honest, but
I could see how it would work in a musical. Like it would be projected behind them, or
I can't actually remember if it was, to be honest. It might have
some
been.
other way it would have been represented, like on the backdrop or with people running around acting it, but you can't really do that in a movie.
How did this work on Broadway, Austin? Like, just because, I mean, so much of it was performance, and then there was also kind of like flashbacks. So I'm just wondering, is it structured the same way on Broadway, or is it like when they're performing, is it just like a band performing, or does it become more like a traditional musical and they're performing like in the flashback scenes?
No, it's basically just a rock concert. It's like Hedwig and the Angry Inch are performing at this theater. Actually, the whole joke, I'll get into this, but the whole joke is like they kind of were able to like sneak their way into a theater after The Hurt Locker, the musical, closed. That was the production that I saw anyway. And so they're like, it's closed after like one night. So now like the theater's dark. And so they've just kind of put on an impromptu show. And Tommy Gnosis is performing across the lot, kind of like across the street kind of thing. Because at one point she opens like the stage door and you can hear Tommy's music playing. So it's basically a rock concert. And it's essentially the same setup as the movie where she's talking to you as the audience in between songs, and that's where all the story is coming from. So there's no other actors, it's really just the band. There's a lot more like dialogue, I guess. So yeah, there's no flashbacks, there's no like traditional musical aspect to it. It's just basically a rock concert.
See, I feel like that would be interesting because this movie was kind of just like a concept album, basically. Yeah. It was like songs explaining this woman's life with her like telling stories in between. But so I think like it would kind of work in that way on stage where you're just seeing the performance and the stories and it's a lot more immersive. Whereas the movie, like, I don't know. I didn't hate the movie, but it just didn't click with me. You know what I mean? Like it just felt not quite there.
I feel like I also gave like zero prep for this movie. I was like, oh yeah, this movie exists. We're going to watch it.
I mean, we're supposed to go in blind. You did your job correctly, but I think maybe for this particular movie, if Jackie and I had some sort of context for what we were about to be watching, it might have been a little easier to handle.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was a lot. Also, the one thing about this movie, it's the same complaint I had about Rent, where it's so tight in on all of this action and singing and the whole band. They just needed to be like 10 steps removed so you could see the whole spectacle instead of being so immediately in that big space all the time. I just felt again it would work better on a stage, bigger and larger, and it just would have made more sense.
So Does any of the band members have names?
They
or
do, but I
characterizations?
honestly don't know what they are.
Okay.
I wish that Hedwig was with the original Korean Army Wives band because
They
were
were
fucking
great.
cool.
Yes.
I loved that they were actually good. Like, I know that it was a joke, like it was a sight gag, like this isn't who Hedwig should be performing with, but they were talented.
Right?
they
Like,
sounded, yeah, I liked it. It was like, no, these are good musicians. They're just not Hedwig's style.
and they were kind of her style. Like they were rocking right alongside with her. They were
Yeah.
keeping up. Crazy guitar. I mean, it was a stand-up piano, which is kind of weird, but like they were holding
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
The
Although I bet those women like would have band meetings without Hedwig and be like, "Oh my god, I can't with her anymore."
I loved the moment in that scene though where like they're performing in a restaurant and like the public bathroom is behind them and a woman comes out of the bathroom and Hedwig's like talking to the audience and like she turns and she sees the woman coming out of the bathroom and there's just like awkward moment of like, oh no, go ahead, you have to go through our stage to get back to your seat. It's just really funny.
I found that this is gonna make me sound so stupid. But it's the truth. I gotta stick by my truth, right? That's what we've learned from Hedwig. Is that of all the characters in this movie, I probably identified with the weird middle America people eating seafood and just being like, what? What? She's like stepping on their tables and like making all these really good jokes. And I would just be like, where? I thought this was a buffet.
I just came here from my seafood, from a shrimp.
Yeah. I'm like, that guy's expression on his face is my expression watching this movie. I'm just like, what?
I mean, I think if I was going to a seafood restaurant, I would be very confused if there was like a random punk band playing.
Yeah.
Like I'd be like, okay, I mean, I'm not mad at it, but why? Like they're blocking the buffet. Like who
that's it, like,
booked this?
I think I would be a little mad at it because I'm like, I just wanted, a nice quiet seafood buffet. Maybe I'm treating myself after like a hard week at the car sales lot and I just really wanted some soft shell crab and now I got to get through this.
Yeah, like I think,
That's hard.
I mean, we've all gone out for dinner in the before times when there's been live entertainment, but I like knowing that in advance, you know?
You got to manage your expectations.
I like going to the restaurant knowing a band starts at 9 o'clock or something versus going to a restaurant and then all of a sudden someone's there. Side note, have you guys ever had a magician come to your table at a restaurant?
Can't say I have.
I just thought of this as I was saying live entertainment, but this happened one time at a Boston Pizza of all fucking places.
This is the best story.
Were they working at Boston Pizza?
I guess Boston Pizza hired a magician to go table to table as their like in-house entertainment.
That's amazing.
I'm so confused.
I'm in.
I go to Boston Pizza a lot. Why have I never seen a magician?
Right? I've been my fair share of times. I feel like I'm really missing out here.
It has only happened to me at the specific Boston Pizza that was at Yonge and Eglinton, but is no longer there.
Ooh, I was going to say we're going, but
Yeah.
also you gave me such a pang talking about remember you would go to a restaurant and like a band would be starting at like 9 or something and you get annoyed because you're just trying to drink with your friends.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes
my
the
problem
band
with
would be
live
good.
entertainment, says the musician.
Weirdly, of all the things, I think I've decided that I miss dancing the most, which is bizarre because I've never identified as a danseur. But I just want to go to like do swing dance. I want to do like a lambada. I want to go dance. I want to go twirl. Just set me free, people. I need to go dance.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily dancing, but I have had a couple moments where I'm like, do you remember, like, going out, like, clubbing, going out to, like, the bar super late, getting dressed up and being crowded around with a million people on a dance floor? And I'm like, that's so not my thing at all. But now that I can't do it, like, I want to go do it again.
Do it. Yeah, I
Still
want to
sounds
do it.
terrible. It's been years since I have been to a club because I am an old woman. But now, I want to go.
Wow, sorry, tangent. Oh,
Okay,
Rama.
Yeah.
I do love that their manager, which is played by Andrea Martin, which I did not know. Love to
I know
see
her.
it.
Where do I know her from? Why do I know that name?
Christmas.
Black Christmas, which
Most
we just
recently.
watched.
And My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh yeah, with the the glasses lady. Sure.
Her character in both movies is Phyllis.
Whoa.
Weird.
Right?
So do you think they are obsessed with Black Christmas?
Is it like a shared universe, do you think?
I hope so.
Ooh, creepy.
She survived.
Yeah, I was like,
Well,
oh, she definitely died in Black
she
Christmas.
died.
Both
She
movies
definitely
were
died.
filmed in Toronto.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Hedwig was filmed in Toronto?
Mhm.
Where?
I don't know. In a
I guess there's no
rundown.
real outside scenes.
All the restaurants were filmed in like one restaurant, and they just kind of like shifted the set around so it didn't look like the same.
I hope
That's
it was
cool.
that same Boston Pizza where the magician worked.
Maybe.
That was actually John Cameron Mitchell.
But I do love that their manager, Phyllis, I think her name's Phyllis. Anyway, Andrea Martin has like set them up to like follow Tommy around because Tommy has gotten all famous from playing all of the music that either Hedwig wrote or they wrote together. And so they're just following him around and like shadowing his tour, but just playing in this like one specific seafood restaurant chain. I don't know why that's so funny to me.
I know. How are they always in such close proximity to the concert hall?
Yeah.
It's a failing restaurant chain. They can't have one outside every stadium tour stop.
Or maybe the restaurants are all just empty because everyone's in the tour, like at the show at the stadium, and then once it leaves, the restaurant's packed.
Oh.
I think it said in the Wikipedia article that it was a failing chain of restaurants.
Well, then I got nothing for you.
Yeah. I think the reason they're letting Hedwig play is because they're like, we have nothing else. We'll try.
I do have to say she must be a good manager to manage to negotiate that deal. Because, yeah, why would a failing seafood chain agree to have a, like, queer punk band play at their buffets? That's, like, a very weird thing. But she managed to get that deal done.
Right, and keep it going. Like, after the first show, you think the manager would be like, I'm calling corporate. I'm calling all the other Johnny seafood restaurants and letting them know not to hire her. But she still manages to get gig. So you're right. She's a great manager.
Yep. She's got
minus her whole plan where she was like, we're gonna ambush him for a photo and that will win a court case. And I was like, that's not how any of this works.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. I'm like, why are they going to this like mall signing?
I think it was because Tommy doesn't admit that he knows Hedwig, and Hedwig's been like going to the press saying I wrote all of his music. And then so their manager's like, well, if there's a picture of you with Tommy, then he can't deny that he knows you.
I think that's really... She crashed my signing and like jumped on me.
Yeah, if the picture is from a public record signing years after the alleged songwriting partnership, like it just doesn't prove anything.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was a bit of a crazy idea.
Yeah,
but then he just came and picked her up anyway so that they could get into a car crash together.
I guess I could talk about Tommy a bit.
Yes.
I hate that actor. I hate his stupid face and his giant plush lips. I hate him. I've seen him in Murder by Numbers, and that's it, and I hate him. The second I realized who it was, I was like, oh, this fucking guy's in this movie. Go to hell.
Well, it fits. Tommy sucks.
Tommy's a victim.
That is true, to be honest.
Yeah, that's also, again, when we were mentioning Hedwig's advanced age compared to Tommy, I did start to feel like not only is he 17, but he has a very, like, strict religious upbringing. He's a very sheltered kid. So I was like, I feel not super comfortable with their relationship.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a question for you, Austin. Are we to believe that Tommy took songs that he and Hedwig wrote together, or all of Hedwig's songs? Or both?
I think it might be both.
Because I'm like, if he took the songs they wrote together, then he has an equal claim to them.
Well, yeah, but she would still need credit for them legally.
Yeah, sure. He could give her credit.
Yeah.
That's true. But like, if he had co-wrote them, I'm more sympathetic towards him than if he just stole his property.
I got the sense, or at least Hedwig thinks that he stole her songs, even ones that they didn't write together. But I don't know. I mean, either way, she should be getting a writer credit, which I think is, or performing together. Like, they wrote music to be performed together, and then he just took the music with him and got famous.
Yeah, I see what you mean, though, Jackie. Like, I think Hedwig is the kind of person where even if it was songs that they wrote together, she would still call them her songs. Yeah. So I feel like she still has that sense of ownership over it, so he could be like, again, he's still screwing her out of a credit and money by recording them and not giving her a co-author credit or anything. But I could still see her being like, no, those are mine. You don't have the right to record them without me. Like, it's my songs, you know?
Right, and doesn't it seem a little bit like Hedwig is like, I made you, I created you?
Yeah.
Which is so much more disturbing considering she is a victim of the same thinking.
She groomed him, yeah.
She groomed him, but she also was groomed.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the cycle of abuse, but it's also so awful because she's actively trying to break out of it so hard. Her whole life is about figuring out who she is outside of these external influences. And then while trying to be super self-aware, she's doing it to someone else. Mm-hmm. It's creepy, man. Like, I don't like the way she treats Tommy at all. I'm kind of team Tommy. She molests him. He's underage.
Yeah.
And like you said, he's totally naive and has no idea of the world. And when they eventually, after a long partnership, attempt to become physical, Hedwig, like, he's kind of understandably surprised about what he discovers is her anatomy. And she's just like, that's what I have to work with. And then she basically in the movie is like grabbing him and pushing him and like smacking him and like screaming at him to deal with it. And I'm like, that's just awful. Like, what kind of a shock is it to this kid who doesn't probably never saw a naked human being before?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I find it hard to be super angry at Tommy.
Yeah, it's hard because like yeah, he was 17. I don't know how long their relationship went on, and I don't know like when what happened. Although she jerked him off like first thing, so I suppose there's no real getting around that. But I think for a little bit, like when they are romantically involved, and he's always uncomfortable around her. Like he's always he's only ever hugging her back, like he doesn't kiss her. And so like she does say in that scene like, love the front of me. And so like that was hard.
It was hard, but she didn't really give him any real leeway. Like, he was coming to terms with the fact that he was attracted to what he considered to be a man in drag.
Right.
And then once he finally does kiss her and like he came to terms with that part of himself, then he's confronted with something entirely new, and he doesn't get any chance to process it or understand it. He gets like this crazy over the top emotional reaction. Like, you can't expect him not to run. That's just like, that's a panic instinct. Like, what is happening? I don't understand. I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that they never reconcile and he then goes and becomes famous is another issue, but he's not, like, I don't think he's the bad guy.
I think Hedwig thinks he's the bad guy. Like, that's, and this movie is so through Hedwig's perspective, it's hard to get perspective outside of that.
Yeah, like, I think in that moment, like, that scene, I understand Hedwig reacting emotionally and kind of freaking out, but it is very sudden, you know what I mean? Like, he has essentially kind of pulled away and been like, wait, what's going on? Because he doesn't really understand that Hedwig is sort of not who he thought that she was. And then Hedwig kind of just freaks out, which, again, I understand, but then he's kind of, again, he's like a 17-year-old kid. He's so sheltered. And like, even if the stuff about like, oh, we've never even kissed, it's like, there's a reason for that. It's because he is a like child who does not understand these things. So of course he's going to react poorly in any kind of sexual situation. Like, he doesn't know what to do. And yeah, you kind of just freaked on him, and it was just a bad look for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's like an interesting kind of segue to just like Hedwig being a really flawed character, and because we do see so much of the movie through her perspective, and like she's obviously been deeply hurt and abused, and she's extremely vulnerable, but like she's got a wicked temper, she's prone to outbursts, she's manipulative and cruel towards Yitzhak, who's her husband. Like, it's not good.
Yeah, the scene where she rips up his passport is the worst thing. Like, that is just unforgivable.
Yeah.
That is heartbreaking, too. Like, Yitzhak is destroyed. Mm-hmm. And, like, this dream, and again, it was like you said, I didn't realize the subtext of him wanting to be a drag queen and having been forbade to do so by Hedwig, but now he's, like, breaking free, and he's doing the thing that is pure to him, which is to be a drag queen, to be Angel.
I know, we have to talk about that.
And she like literally takes his dream in her hands and rips it up. Like, that is so beyond cruel.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. Like, you're right, she's so mean and cruel and impulsive, because it's like, this isn't going to repair your relationship. Yitzhak isn't going to stay with you after this. So ripping up the passport isn't going to get you what you want. The whole motivation is to hurt them. Yeah. Which makes you a bad person.
Yeah. Like, and anytime anyone on stage like stands out or takes a solo or is what Hedwig perceives as being upstaging her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she freaks out. There's even that scene where the audience starts harassing her, and Yitzhak jumps off the stage and is like, and starts fighting. Like, I don't think Hedwig wants that. Like, he's pissed because it's taking the attention away from Hedwig, from herself.
I didn't really get that too, but she keeps going, right? Like she keeps singing and singing while everyone else is having a huge brawl. So she's just like, everyone should still be watching me do my thing. I'm the most important.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like I have nothing good to say this week.
No, it's okay. I don't have a ton to say either. It's okay if it's a short one.
Ugh. The whole Tommy Jesus freak part really creeped me out. The whole Adam and Eve and the in and the out and the rib and the this. I was just like, shut up. Like, shut up. It's so stupid. I honestly didn't 100% get that he was raised to be a Jesus freak. I thought he just was. And I was just like, you're so annoying. Like, no one wants to hear your garbage talk about Jesus. Like, do you have no concept of how to talk to people? But now, after you guys are explaining these things to me and I'm like thinking more about it, yeah, obviously it's his crazy restrictive upbringing, and that's the whole root of his crosshead devil worship persona for the stage, whatever he's doing there. Just pretty gross. It's like Chris Angel mind freak, basically. Like, calm down. But every time he starts like staring all wet-eyed, talking about Adam and Eve, I'm just like, turn it off, turn it off. He's so creepy.
You mentioned that Yitzhak wanted to be in Rent. I do want to talk about that scene.
Rent is everywhere in this movie.
Yes.
I love it.
They're at the laundromat and they're just like planning things out, and Yitzhak's off to the side and he sees a casting call for the Polynesian and Guam tour of Rent. But there was a mistake in this casting call. I paused it and read the casting call. This is what it said. So it says casting call: Mark, young, edgy, blonde, aspiring filmmaker. Collins, young, edgy, black, aspiring musician. And I was like, wait a sec. That's incorrect. Yeah, no. And then Angel, young, edgy, Puerto Rican drag queen, must be comfortable with drums. It just made me laugh that they mixed up Roger and Collins.
Also, was Roger supposed to be black?
No. I think they meant to say
combined
Roger.
them to be one person together?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did. But yeah, so he sees the posting and ends up auditioning for Angel and getting the part, which is when Hedwig turns
Despite not being Puerto Rican, like you just said the casting call asked for.
Yeah, well.
Yitzhak's got a beard. I guess that's it.
Yeah, they're like, Eastern Europe, Puerto Rico, all the same.
Also,
Come on in.
Yitzhak's facial hair is the grossest thing.
I know. I felt so bad. The actress's name is Miriam Shore, and I felt really bad for her for having to wear that facial hair.
Really bad. And they could have done a way better job if she's authentically supposed to be a male gendered character.
Mm-hmm.
They made this actress look like a woman trying to look like a man, you know? Like, I felt like they could have done a lot more with the makeup to make it less.
I guess that's
of a
also
question.
A tricky thing with a movie versus a stage show. It's easier to be in drag or be in male drag than in a movie when you're up close and personal.
I'm so glad we're past the time when wearing the like Axl Rose bandana with long hair is over. I really object to that look. It is a bad look. No one looks good.
I do love that he's wearing a Rent sweatshirt or t-shirt for
yes,
the rest of
that's what I was going to say. There's a couple times like Rent is on a shirt, it's on a flyer, it's somewhere else, it's on like a marquee. Like there's little Easter eggs of Rent all throughout this movie. It just makes me feel really happy to see Rent anywhere. So I was just excited. I didn't realize it was going to become part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought they were little like hints, just like, we love Rent. And I was like, me too.
Same, actually. When they saw the Rent poster with the auditions, I didn't realize that Yitzhak was gonna like take it and go for the audition. I thought it was just supposed to be like a time capsule kind of thing. Like, oh, we're in like the 90s. Here's a Rent poster.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say I felt really awful for Hedwig's mom. Her life was shit, beginning to end. She didn't catch a break, and I it just makes me feel really sad to think of people who live in similar situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a very funny gag to say our apartment was so small my mom made me play in the oven. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it is so sad when you think about literally there's nowhere else to go except for the oven.
Yeah. Well, one thing I didn't realize until after reading the Wikipedia page is that the year that Luther leaves Hedwig is the same year that the Berlin Wall came down. So it's like her transformation, her botched gender reassignment surgery was for nothing. And,
yeah, I have that in my notes too. I'm like, so this was all for nothing.
Yeah.
And it really was. That's actually the one thing that gave me a ray of hope for her mom, is that she sent her a postcard from sunny Yugoslavia.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, at least she's got some measure of freedom now.
Yeah, in a country that is about to get ripped apart by its own civil war. Okay.
Quiet.
Spoiler alert.
She gets a happy ending.
Spoiler alert for the 90s.
USS saw what? Sorry, but then I now I'm just thinking, with this is fresh off the top of my head, so it might not sound right, but do we think that Hedwig the mother was trying to get rid of Hedwig the daughter, and that's why she pushed, or was she trying to save Hedwig and get her out of East Germany?
I think she was trying to save her and get her out of East Germany.
She had no idea the wall would come down, and she didn't want her to stay in East Germany.
No, because I think it was a couple of years. Like, I don't think it was, like, immediate. I think her and Luther were together for a while.
I think it was a year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
that, I feel like there was, like, a happy anniversary flyer or something that. So I thought it was supposed to be, like, a 1-year anniversary. But I guess it could have also been their 2 or 3 year anniversary.
But I think it was just a desperate attempt to get Hedwig out of East Germany.
It kind of turned out the best for Hedwig the mother, judging by her beak pick. We didn't talk about the music.
That's true.
Yeah.
What you guys think?
Wig in a Box is fantastic.
Yes.
It's a bop. Love it. The rest of them were all noise to me. I couldn't pick out anything. I couldn't pick out themes. I couldn't pick out words. It went all over my head. Like I tried to brutally explain before, I don't get music the first time through, so I just didn't get it. I'm just like, I can't understand what this is trying to convey. And I was trying so hard to pick words out of the noise that I caught nothing. Maybe I was too focused on the small bits that I was trying to catch, but I was left with nothing. I got no impression of any of it, which is, I think, a waste, because I do like a musical. Yeah. And maybe if I listened to the songs without the movie, I would appreciate them more.
Yeah, I recommend trying, because I do think it is like what Jen was talking about before about a concept album. I think it is. Like, I think that was also one of the goals when they were doing it, was so that it works as a show, it works as a movie, but you can also just listen to the album and kind of get the story. You don't get as much, the dialogue in between, but the overall story of her life kind of does come into the picture. But at the same time, I feel like you don't necessarily need it. Like, it's not like typical Broadway book songs where, the character starts at one point and then they sing and they've reached another point. You know what I mean? Like, nothing. It's not like a story development song.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also was planning on listening to the soundtrack on its own, because even though, like Jackie, same, I couldn't pick up a lot of the lyrics a lot of the time. I did enjoy the music. I thought it was well done. I liked a lot of the songs. Couldn't tell you any of their names. I would just be like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
This is nice. So I do want to kind of give the music its own shot, separate from the movie, I guess. But yeah, I think if I didn't like the music, I would have had a much harder time with this movie. But because I thought the songs were good to listen to, it kind of helped propel me through it. So if it was, Jackie was saying she hates the aesthetics and she hates all this stuff, and I'm kind of like, if it would looked the exact same actors, same plot, everything was the exact same, and the only difference was that Hedwig was like a country singer, this would have been the worst thing you ever showed me.
Wait, you don't like country music? Because guess what? I like country music sometimes.
We're watching Walk the Line next week. I don't know.
No. No, I hate country, but as you know, I enjoy punk music and emo aesthetics.
That
the
is
worst
true.
thing I've ever said.
Bam, bam, bam. My favorite quote ever made.
We gotta make
worst thing I've ever said. Oh, so bad.
We definitely need t-shirts. Definitely.
All right, check out our merch store.
Oh no.
tpublic.com.
Punk music and emo aesthetic.
Yep.
Is that it? Yes. Oh, get to work, Austin.
Yep.
I have to say that I could watch this movie if it was just Hedwig and her amazing outfits singing so talentedly to me. I don't want any of the rest of it.
If you ever,
I think I would like the show.
If you ever get it, I was gonna say, if you ever get a chance to see the show, definitely go to it, because it is like that. It's like going to a concert.
Also, it's outrageous and offensive how beautiful Hedwig is in the face? Like,
you know what
rude.
else is offensive and outrageous? I was watching a documentary about it, and John Cameron Mitchell fit into a women's size 4 for this movie.
Go to hell, you disgusting monster.
But yeah, no, she's gorgeous.
Like, the makeup is crazy. I don't know how they can pull off those eyebrows in that wig.
The
but
red
she
glittery
does it.
lipstick, I was
Yes.
here for it. I guess now could be a good time to talk a little bit about how Hedwig came to be. I don't know much. Like, this is all new information that I have assembled over the last couple days. I don't own the DVD for this, but there's a documentary on the DVD all about the making of it, and it's on YouTube. I think it's called Whether You Like It or Not, The Story of Hedwig. Recommend. But basically, Hedwig started as a drag act. John Cameron Mitchell and Stephen Trask, the composer. I believe he's one of the bandmates in the movie as well. I don't remember which. But they started developing this like drag act, and they performed at a drag club in New York City. And it was like one of the first drag acts that had a story to it. John Cameron Mitchell had never done drag before, but was just kind of workshopping this character and workshopping kind of wanting to do something with this character, and so kind of just came on stage and was Hedwig and had this backstory all planned and like did all this, and so that's kind of how the character came to be. And then it had an off-Broadway run in the late, I believe it started in 1997, I should double check that, but it played at the Riverview Hotel, which is, they literally built the theater for it, which is kind of cool. No one wanted the show. It was too rock for Broadway and too Broadway for rockers, basically. So they ended up, had a couple backers, and there was like a ballroom at some rundown hotel in the meatpacking district called the Riverview Hotel. And so they got the ballroom, they ripped it up, they built a theater. There was no stage, there were no chairs. They had like seats shipped in from Long Island and just like built this theater for the show, and it played off Broadway for I think 2 years. John Cameron Mitchell did it, then Michael Cerveris did it. He's a big Broadway guy, and Ali Sheedy actually played Hedwig from The Breakfast Club.
Interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So anyone is allowed to try and play Hedwig?
It was kind of like, yeah, it just kind of kept opening doors, right? It kind of
That's
an
cool.
interesting, yeah. And then it. I think John Cameron Mitchell did the show for a year or so, and then directed the movie in 2001. And then it came to Broadway officially in 2014.
There's an actor who has a name similar to John Cameron Mitchell who's very different, and I can't think of who it is. Because when you were talking about that, before we saw this, I was picturing someone completely different.
Oh.
Is it Kristen Scott Thomas?
Yeah, maybe.
Is
I
it
can't think of who it is now. I was like, was it someone from Modern Family? Like, who am I picturing?
Jesse Tyler Ferguson.
I love Jesse Tyler Ferguson. I love it so much.
Hedwig now.
I'm here for it.
He could do it.
He probably
do
could.
it.
Some of the Hedwigs from the 2014 production, so it started with Neil Patrick Harris. Michael C. Hall from Dexter.
Oh,
he
yeah.
did it. I think Darren Criss did it. And our favorite podcast fave, Taye Diggs, also did it. And then John Cameron Mitchell reprised the role as well at one point.
Is Taye Diggs our podcast fave?
Hey, he's mine. Taye Diggs. Oof. I would watch
This is
Taye Diggs.
the third
as
time
Hedwig.
he's
oh
come
my
up,
god.
At least.
He would confuse my sexuality all over the place if I saw him in Hedwig.
Yeah.
Whew, he is beautiful too, right? He could play a beautiful drag queen. It's so funny. I just watched an episode of New Girl before this, and he was in it. I don't know the plot because I wasn't really paying attention. I was too busy stuffing my face. But at one point, he like surprises one of the people by being naked in their bed.
Ooh.
And he does this like thing where he stretches his foot over his head. And I was just like, what?
I love how this podcast is brought to you by Taye Diggs and Sandra Bullock.
Oh, imagine them together.
Oh.
Best movie ever.
Someone-
Maybe if there's also a bus that can't slow down, I'm in.
Oh my god.
And
okay,
then
okay.
you
The
have to,
bus
like,
has been done.
sing.
It's
What about like
a submarine that can't slow down.
Yeah,
Taye
Speed
Diggs
3.
has to sing and just like croon to us?
Oh,
That's how he stops the bomb, is by
Yeah.
singing.
Mm-hmm.
right? And it like melts. It's just like too sexy.
Yeah, the
people.
bomb's like, oh, he's so talented.
This bomb
Someone
is all
please
of
write
us.
that movie. No, I'm keeping all of this, yeah.
It's quality podcasting right here. Mwah.
So I have a question for you guys. Because sometimes I am stupid when watching movies. Do we think that the ending is actually happening? So they like have this big performance. Everything's in what, like, it's definitely a heightened reality,
Yeah.
but I do think it is happening, but I'm not.
Which parts? Because there's a lot that happens in this.
So he
ending.
like, okay, so they're like have this final performance. Everyone, all of his bandmates are in white. It's like a big poppin' concert. I think it's in Times Square. And then Hedwig starts kind of breaking down, and she rips off all the drag, and then kind of passes the torch to Yitzhak, and then ends up naked and like walks away. Like that's the end of the movie, right?
See, I thought that part was fantasy. So I thought, like, right before that, Hedwig is performing with her band. I thought that was the Times Square performance. And then she kind of goes into the vision with Tommy.
Oh, true.
And then there's the all-white performance. So I thought that all-white performance was a fantasy. I'm not saying this is 100% true. This is just how I interpreted it. I thought she was sort of fantasizing about, like, now I have this kind of closure and this is going to make everything better.
You're
but not
probably
necessarily
right.
that it really happened. You're not stupid. We can all have a different interpretation. The film is not clear for a reason.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're supposed to. I never actually thought any of it was a fantasy. I thought it was all happening. So,
well, like
there
she passes the torch kind of to Yitzhak, which I think is important. And then there's kind of Yitzhak has kind of a glow up, which I mean obviously could not have been real, I suppose, now that I think about it. But
yeah, it was like a 3-second glow up.
I mean, it happens on the Broadway stage.
Yitzhak can pull off a real beautiful Hedwig too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that wig does not look like it would be universally flattering, but it is.
I do like that moment though, where Yitzhak goes to put the wig on Hedwig's head and she like pushes her away. Like, no, like it's for you. I like that moment. Growth. It's growth.
It made me more sad. I was like, this talking about it has made me understand it more, but I was left with a really sad impression. I'm like, it didn't feel like growth to me. It felt like giving up. Yeah. It was like, I don't know. I was left with the impression that she was like, I'm not worthy of this anymore. Like, this is not, I don't deserve it, or I need to figure out who I am before I can be this person. And so she was like, you do it, Yitzhak. Like, this is my making amends to you for being a horrible monster. But it wasn't happy to me. It was just sad. I was like, oh, so now she's a broken, destroyed mess and she's going to go wander the streets of New York until she gets murdered, probably. I was just like, that's awful.
I don't think I took it as sad as you, but I did very much take it as it was Hedwig closing that chapter of her life.
Right.
Like, you take over. I'm done with the band. I'm done with the music. I'm naked in an alleyway. I'm starting from absolute nothing, and I'm going to build myself up again into something else.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily she's done with this, again, this Hedwig persona that she's kind of put on for the last few years. But yeah, like, time to focus on me. Yeah, it definitely has like that sad element to it, I think, and kind of the passing the torch. But I do think it is growth ultimately, that she needs to figure out who she is, and maybe her other half isn't, maybe her other half is like finding her, like it's the rest of her,
Yeah, I did find that whole thematic thread very annoying. The other half thing, I'm like, just get over it, dude. Like, everybody knows that you are not supposed to put everything into a relationship with another person. Like, you're supposed to have some kind of boundaries. You're supposed to have some kind of independence. Like, you can't find one person who's going to fix all your problems. So that whole thing just coming over and over and over. I was like, yeah, we get it. Sure. Jesus or whoever split everyone with a lightning bolt. Sure. But like, it's not literal. It's stop trying to find this thing. It's not going to work.
So speaking of the other half, I'm like curious now, because Austin, you said that like, oh, maybe the other half is her finding herself. But I kind of thought the movie was saying that her other half was Tommy. So I'm like, did we all interpret the other half in a different way? I thought it was her coming to the realization, like, where it's the two of them singing across from each other. And at first she had come with that kind of idea that she had made him, and therefore he, like, owed her everything, and now she was kind of coming to terms with the fact that, like, yes, I kind of created you in the image of myself, kind of thing. I turned you into what I wanted to be, and I have to accept that you are now out in the world as your own thing, and that part of me is living on through you, kind of thing. I don't know if that's too metaphorical, but that's what I was interpreting the other half as.
Boom. That is a lot. I did not get nearly that deep. I was purely like, Hedwig, I wanted to slap her and be like, girl, you don't need a relationship. You can be fine by yourself. Like, learn to not search for this thing that's going to fix you.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to find it.
I like to think that that is what it was. Yeah, I definitely thought the Tommy chapter has been put behind her. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought that scene where he's sort of singing to her was sort of him maybe apologizing or just, you know, being done. Like, we're moving past this. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we all interpreted things differently.
Interesting.
Yeah, we all got something different from that ending.
Hedwig needs a little me time, and you know, just focus on you, girl.
I just got left, like, it just left me on a sad note. I didn't feel very hopeful for Hedwig. I was like, I guess you're gonna go.
I hope you're gonna. I don't know.
Yeah, but like, you're naked.
Yeah.
In like Harlem or something in the early to late 90s. Like, you're gonna get killed. Yeah, it didn't end hopeful for me. It ended like, I'm giving up on life. Goodbye. And I was like, that sucks. That's not where I wanted this to end. But okay.
Maybe it was less depressing for me because I didn't think it was literally happening. I thought that was still part of like the metaphorical fantasy world. She's emerging as like a newborn baby into the new world, completely naked, starting from scratch, not like literally left the show, walked backstage out into an alleyway completely naked to go where. That version, that's not going to end well for her.
I still think that it's real. Like, I think that's how it happened.
Honestly, I think it is too. But I think that Jackie and I think of it a little bit differently.
Yeah, but you're like a glass half full person, I guess, and I'm a glass half murdered.
No, well, I do think when we've talked about other movies in the past, you guys, or Jackie especially, has always taken it very literally, whereas I'm always trying to, like, what is the meaning behind this? Because I'm the pretentious asshole of the group, so maybe it's just that again.
No, you're the one who's educating me. I need you, otherwise every movie I'm just like, I don't get it. What's happening?
But it is vague and it is ambiguous, but the idea's there, I suppose. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else we should cover?
Let me quickly look and see if I have any.
I feel like I haven't even looked at my notes today here.
Me neither, and I didn't have very many.
Neither did I.
I honestly was just writing down things like what. Oh, here's a good thing that I wrote what about. The gummy bear thing? Austin.
Oh, yeah. Was that all a metaphor for sex? Was that him like giving Luther oral?
I'm waiting for Austin to explain to me what that gummy bear shit was about.
Seriously, I'm like, is he now confusing sex with gummies? Like, is oral sex to Luther like gummy bears? He's like, oh, it tastes different and all this stuff. I'm like, are you fucking...
So I think, again, there's a literal and interpretive aspect to this, because I do think there is, like, obviously sexual undertones to that. But literally, they do show...
Overtones.
They're
not under.
They're pretty over.
It's like zooming in on a mouth.
Yeah, yeah, fair. No, it's quite sexual, but also when he says, like, they don't taste the same or whatever, I think he's literally talking about, like, East German gummy bears. They were called, like, they show a bag of, like, bland-ass gummy bears that are, like, one color that are, like, what he can get in East Germany versus the, like, colorful and exciting, like, American gummy bears that, like, you get in the free world. But yes, no, it's sex, but also gummy bears.
But I was also like, Luther is quite the daring man. If he's like, I'm going to lead a trail of almond joys to my crotch covered in candy, like, that's a baller move.
You know what? Luther knows what he wants.
Yeah, I mean, it's hella predatory the way he's treating Hansel / Hedwig, but that's pretty enticing.
Right. You were right about Luther earlier, Jackie. Like, he's a terrible person, but he's got style.
Finger guns.
Right? You can't argue with that. He kind of knows what's up. But yeah, he's the monster. But I have the same thing. I was like, what are the gummy bears? Are they sexual? Do they mean oral sex? And I was like, I never want to see another mouth close up. And then I wrote, I want gummy bears and am disgusted by them. So I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I want to eat them, but I don't.
That's so much more articulate than my note, which was literally what? The gummy bear thing? What? That bit threw me for a loop.
It's nasty. But I did kind of want gummy bears.
Yeah, as we're talking about it now, I'm like, I should have bought some gummy bears when I was out.
Right? Like, you never think about gummy bears until you see them and you're like, oh yeah, those are delicious.
Do we think we've covered everything then?
I think so, yeah. High points and low points?
High points and low points. I'll go.
Okay.
My high point were the clothes. 100%. I loved every sparkly, shiny bit of what Hedwig chose to wear, even when I didn't like it. Like the one she's in the restaurant with the Korean army band and she's singing to Tommy. She's wearing like a super hideous, like 90s kind of scarfy
halter top thing.
Yeah, and I was like, ew. But I'm like, you're still pulling it off. And she has a terrible black under blonde hairstyle that flips out. But I'm still like, you're still working it, and I still like, I cannot fault a single thing Hedwig wears. Everyone else is dressed like trash. Hedwig, perfection.
Yeah.
So that's the high point. And the low point for me was the animations, which I just disgustingly hated and ruined. Like, it pulled me out.
Yeah.
And any goodwill I had built up towards the movie, I'm like, I hate this. I hate this movie. I never want to see it again. It destroyed my burgeoning, like, feelings of liking this movie. It was totally awful. It's a terrible choice. So that's my low point.
For me, I think my high point is probably actually the music. I did enjoy the music in this film. I will listen to it again. Like I said, that kind of kept like pulling me back in when I was sort of like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then I'd be like, oh, but the song is good. So I can listen to that at least. I was getting that out of it. So I would say the music was a high point. And then low points, I'm going to echo Jackie. Those fucking animations, like, I hated it. I was confused. I didn't like the style. I didn't know what it was trying to do. I want it dead. Low points.
That's fair. My high point is Wig in a Box, because it's a great song. I love the little sing-along moment where they're like sitting in the window and then like the little sing-along ball is bouncing across the screen, which in the show they do that as well. So there is a screen projector, which is why I'm wondering if the animations do show up behind. I can't remember, but there is a screen projector, and I remember him saying, just follow the bouncing balls, and then the thing that you follow is like a ball sack.
Boo.
So
Just those trucks that have testicles.
Yeah. Oh god.
But yeah, it was I like that song. And when the wall of the trailer pulls down and it's a stage, I thought that was really cool. And also Hedwig looked fucking hot at that point. Long blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
Great look. My low point is Tommy's hair.
Ugh, disgusting. You're so right. You're
just like
so
the
correct.
hair gel, like just so late 90s. Like,
I love how specific that is. It's so accurate, but
yeah,
like, just my low point, his fucking hair.
Specifically in Wicked Little Town at the end when he's singing, and it's just like, ugh.
Well, and super tragically at the end, that's what Hedwig's hair is. Horrible.
Yeah. It's not quite as bad. It's not quite as like gelled into like individual parcels, you know.
It's pretty bad. It's like yeah, it's like you said, she made Tommy in her image, so then she became Tommy at the end of it. And I was just like, I don't like that. Tommy's a bad character. We don't want Hedwig to become Tommy. Tommy sucks. So don't adopt the same hairstyle. Just do it. Like, I would have been so much happier if Hedwig had like a shaved head or something.
Yeah.
Which would make more sense too for wig changing, but I'll let it go. You're right. I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. That's my low point. It's his hair.
It's a good one because it's really bad.
Do you have some quotes, Jackie?
I do. Quotes. Hedwig has a lot of great one-liners.
Yeah, I wrote some down too.
You probably have better ones. I only wrote a couple because I was, again, trying to follow this movie without closed captioning, which is hard for me. But I wrote, when it comes to huge openings, a lot of people think of me. And I still love, our apartment was so small, Mother made me play in the oven.
Yep.
So sad, but so funny. And then there's a lot of like patter when she's kind of talking with the audience, like exactly how a lounge singer kind of would, but she was like,
Yeah.
looks like we got a couple sugar daddies in the house. You could give me a cavity, honey, and I bet you could fill that cavity, honey. And I was like, ooh.
And she gives him a
like,
car wash. She like, her skirt
Yeah.
is like fringed and it just waves it across his face.
She also says, I performed once in East Berlin. They threw tomatoes at me. After the show, I had a nice salad.
Yes.
And then, of course, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? She says, no, but I love his work. Clever. We were out grossing monster trucks in Wichita. And I have this quote. Yeah, you said it. But when he says, I love you, and she says, then love the front of me, honey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's nice, but sad. And then my favorite quote, maybe so silly, but I love the phrasing of it. When she's like, after my divorce from Luther, I scraped by with babysitting gigs and odd jobs, mostly the jobs we call blow.
Yes.
I was like, yeah, girl. Very clever. Very, very clever.
Those are most of the ones that I wrote down. I also wrote down what poor unfortunate creature had to die for you to, or she's wearing a fur coat and she's saying how some woman asked her what poor unfortunate creature had to die for you to wear that, and she says, my Aunt Trudy.
Hey-o. I think they actually have a rim shot too. They're like,
yeah. Oh, there's a line in the song where she's talking about her botched operation and how she's bleeding excessively, and she says, it's my first day as a woman and already it's that time of the month.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's about it. You got most of the ones I wrote down too.
I wrote down Hedwig's.
Yeah,
I wrote down a quote from Andrea Martin because I thought it was random and funny. It was when they're in the laundromat and Hedwig is freaking out about the bra not being washed properly.
Oh, yeah.
And Andrea Martin just goes, "It's a bra. You can have one of mine." And I was like, she's so hilarious. I don't know. I loved that.
Also, I definitely put my bras in the dryer, and now I feel like I've been fucking up.
I always do.
I know you're not supposed to, but I do because I'm lazy.
Okay, good. Well,
I do too, and like, I've never really had one get warped, so. Calm down, Hedwig. She makes her bandmate cry into the bra. Like, you're so harsh. All the dialogue in this movie is basically one-sided.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no other people who really say much at all. So those are all Hedwig quotes. It must be hard to carry a whole show like that.
Oh my god. It sounds like it's just an
show.
exhausting show.
Right? Singing and acting and monologuing, and you never have a chance to, like, take a breath while someone else carries the weight.
Yeah. So, the budget was $6 million, and worldwide gross was only $3.6 million. So,
oh no,
didn't earn back a whole lot of money. John Cameron Mitchell has said that the only time he's made any money off of Hedwig was the newest Broadway production. But I mean, so it didn't do particularly well box office wise, but it did garner quite the cult following. It's a pretty well-known musical in certain circles, I think, and I think the movie, I think it's played a lot as like a double feature with like Rocky Horror and stuff. Oh, there's like really brief footage of the Rosie O'Donnell show. I don't know if you caught this.
I did catch that.
Totally. Yeah, I was like, Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, that was during the Off-Broadway show. He performed on Rosie O'Donnell's show. And they gave him crap too. I think it was either that or another show that he was performing on, but they gave him crap because he wanted to rip off his wig and they wouldn't let him because that would reveal that it wasn't actually a woman.
Really? Like they were worried about shattering the illusion?
Not Rosie O'Donnell and like not the host. I don't know if it was Rosie. There were two shows that they talked about. Okay. It was like the upstairs
like the producers. Yeah.
It's just so weird because I feel like the fact that she's a drag queen is so clear.
It's so part of the show. It would kind of be almost misleading to like tell people, no, don't worry about that aspect of it. Don't worry about what the angry inch part of the title means.
Yeah.
It's like straight washing or whatever the term is, where it's just and it's so strange because you're right, it's the entire point.
Yeah.
All right.
There's a few references to I think someone's wearing a shirt at one point that says Hotel Riverview. So I think I mentioned it before, but the Hotel Riverview was where the original production started. They made their own theater, all that fun stuff. But that hotel was actually the hotel where the surviving crew of the Titanic stayed when they docked in New York. They stayed at this hotel, so there's a little plaque and there's all these like photos of the surviving crew. So that's also referenced in the movie, and all the seafood restaurants. If you saw all the like ships sinking in the background, that's a little nod to the Titanic and to the Hotel Riverview. Oh, one thing that when we were talking about the music, I meant to mention, it was kind of done. I mean, it's always the struggle with movie musicals, right? Is you want it to feel live, but it very rarely is, and when it is, it's usually shitty, Les Mis. But with this, what they did is, I think all the music was pre-recorded, so they weren't really playing live on set. But John Cameron Mitchell was singing live, so and then they went in and did a separate soundtrack recording for the cast album. But
Wow,
so all his singing is live. Yeah, he's fucking amazing. Like, I don't know, and he was directing this too. Like, he said it was exhausting. Like, he said he had no fun making this movie. It was just like so much work.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like,
and then in heels.
yeah.
Oh, the Hedwig logo that you can see on the bass drum of his band, and also it's like the poster for the movie. It's based on the drum and percussion manufacturer Ludwig. If you guys have seen that, it's the same logo. That's a little fun fact.
Sorry, no.
Yeah, it's okay.
But I do love and would love to purchase the Hedwig foam wig hat that her fans wear.
Yeah.
Those exist. I'm pretty sure like real fans wear that. So
that's pretty great.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have the cred to wear it, but I would like to.
That's pretty much it. I think that's all I got. What's next? Jen.
All right. So would you like my bad joke?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So Hedwig and the Angry Inch didn't do #1 at the box office, but Hedwig the Owl did because it was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, I hated that.
Was that not amazing content for you? Some quality jokes?
How long have you been thinking about that?
Yeah. Since I looked up that Harry Potter was the #1 movie that year. But yeah, so this movie, like you said, it came out in 2001. Top of the box office that year was Harry Potter, like I said. And then also Lord of the Rings, Monsters, Inc., Shrek. Not my favorite year for movies. I was going through all the 2001 movies, and it's like...
It's a lot of year.
Yeah, like a lot of not great stuff. Like A Knight's Tale, the Planet of the Apes remake, Jason X. Like,
sorry, when are you getting to the not good stuff?
Vanilla Sky.
Ooh, okay, that's a bad
There you
one.
go. I Am Sam.
It's such a random year for movies. Like every movie, I feel like every movie came out in 2001.
Oh no, I Am Sam with Sean Penn.
Oh. Yes, yeah.
Oh, I was thinking I Am Legend. I'm like, are you kidding? That's amazing. But no, that's bad.
No, there's so many, like, it was such, the early 2000s were such a weird time for movies. It's like we hadn't figured out what we were doing yet, so we were like, let's do everything, but not well.
Oh, one thing I forgot to add with trivia, but it ties into your your box office stuff, is that I think this movie Hedwig it had a pretty limited release. I think its initial release was like out in July, but I think its more widespread release day was, anyone want to take a guess? Because it didn't make a whole lot of money. September 12th.
Oh.
And so that's one of the reasons it didn't make a lot of money, because they were doing a lot of free tickets to movies, so there was no like income for that. Not a great release day.
That sucks.
Sorry, I interrupted you on the box office stuff.
Oh, yeah, I was only also just going to mention that in 2001, my least favorite musical of all time also came out.
Oh, yes. That's a stay tuned.
So we're not going to reveal it? We're going to let people wait until that movie comes up?
Jackie, you want to take a stab at it?
It's the worst musical of all time.
I hate this movie more than, like, most movies. You know what I mean? Like, I hate it the most.
And it was a movie musical.
Yeah.
Yes, in 2001.
And it wasn't... Oh, I know what it is. No. No. Okay, Cats was recently. I know what it is. It's Moulin Rouge.
Yes it is.
I was like, what came out? And what... I know that you hate Moulin Rouge. We've had this conversation before.
Oh, I hate it so much.
I disagree. But we'll get there.
Let's do some ratings.
Oh, I'd like to go first and get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Yes, you should.
That's our trend.
Because when I watched this movie, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I hated basically every second of it. I found it extremely painful and awful to watch. And most of the time I was like, it was on my phone streaming to my television, so I couldn't play with my phone. So I was literally like looking around my apartment, like I was praying for this to end. I did not enjoy it at all. Now, having talked about it with you guys, my rating has gone up.
Oh, good.
Now that I think I understand a little bit more of stuff I wasn't getting,
Mm-hmm.
and after I've read the music lyrics and kind of got a better idea of what was actually happening and everything that I missed, I'm changing it. So I wrote here 1 out of 10 because I don't think I can give it a 0. I don't know if I'm allowed. And then I wrote the music makes it a 1, I guess, because I remembered really liking Wig in a Box. That's the one song that stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But now after talking about it and thinking
Ruminating.
about it, because yeah, I didn't really think about it while I was watching it, right? I was just confused.
Yes.
And once it was over, I'm like, please exit my brain. I don't want these images anymore. And I didn't think about it again. But now thinking about it, I'll give it a 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't.
Quite an increase.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely, I have more sympathy for almost every character.
Yeah.
And the overarching idea of figuring out who you are and your place in life is universal. And we all have this similar, if different, thoughts. And I get it a little bit more, I guess. Like and I think that I'll like the music if I can take it out of the movie.
I recommend
so
the
I'm
soundtrack.
giving it a hopeful 5.
That's really exciting. I'm happy to hear that.
It's actually, I'm very surprised at myself because I was like, this is a pile of trash and I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But now,
Do you know what this is, Jackie? This is growth.
okay, well, I take it back. I don't
You
want
are
this.
now naked in
No.
a New York alleyway. You have changed.
I have been birthed. In terms of quality, I said I want to give it a 10 out of 10 for outfits and a 0 out of 10 for animations. So I averaged it to a 5 out of 10.
All right.
Because I really dislike everything about the way this movie looks. But I think they did a good job making it look the way they wanted it to, even though it's not the way I would have wanted it to. And a lot of it didn't make sense to me, like how Tommy's holding her hand and they're like walking through an infinite forest of clothing. And I'm just like, what is this supposed to be? Like, I don't get it. But we've established that I'm not very smart in movies. I'm not very willing to go into metaphors and other things. Like, I want it to make sense. So this movie was never going to be great for me.
Yeah, I think Jen hit the nail on the head earlier. I think I made you go into it too blind.
But yeah, so both are a 5 out of 10, which
Nice.
actually surprises me.
Yeah,
But there you have it.
More than I expected from you.
Nice. I'll go next. I think my scores are going to be pretty similar to Jackie's. I think for my enjoyment, the first part of the movie, like I said, I really struggled with. So at that point, I would have given it like a 1 or a 0 because I wasn't caught up. I wasn't really immersed. I didn't really get what was going on and I wasn't enjoying it. Eventually, I kind of figured out what the movie was going for, and it still didn't necessarily like work 100%, but I appreciated it more.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, like thinking about sort of what it was trying to say and what like the metaphors were and kind of the big picture stuff, I enjoyed. So that I would probably give it like a 5 for enjoyment, maybe a 6. I don't know. So like I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it.
How about a 5.5? That's like...
Oh, we can't throw decimals in here now. That's
No.
too
Oh,
much.
I have
complicated.
before.
You have? Oh, Austin, you're fired.
All right, bye, guys.
Whole numbers are bust.
And then for quality, that's tough because I do think like it was a fairly low budget film, like you said. So it's aiming for something specific, and I think it achieved that. Even if there were aspects of it that I think I would have liked differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know how to rank that. I guess a 7 for quality.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same ballpark. I think for enjoyment, I'm going to say an 8. And then for...
I'm in the same ballpark. Here's my scores way higher.
No, sorry. For quality. Did I say quality? For enjoyment, I'm giving it an 8. For quality, I'm giving it like a 7. I like a lot of it. I like what it did with most of it. I'm not crazy about the animations. They didn't offend my sensibilities like it sounds like they did for both of you. But I just thought it was fun. I thought it was kind of an out of left field choice for us to watch.
Definitely.
But
Yeah. I
We're so
wouldn't-
mainstream.
yeah,
I wouldn't have pegged Austin as the one bringing the like weird art house film.
there's
but
going to be a
good job.
couple of those. So Jen says she was down to watch anything, so
yeah. I won't like everything, but I'll try it.
Busting out the weird stuff.
I don't think I ever made that statement though. So
I do have a couple of props to show you before.
Oh yes,
here we go.
So I am wearing my Neil Patrick Harris T-shirt. I also have my assigned playbill that is framed.
Oh my god.
Got Neil Patrick Harris and Lena Hall, who played Yustak.
See, he's so sexual. Look at his face.
I find him so not sexual, so it's so funny to me that you like kicked this whole thing off, Jackie, by being like, he's so overtly sexual, and I'm like, he seems so like sexless to me.
That's how I can't explain it. Like, he's not overtly sexual day to day, but when he wants to be dirty sexual, like given the face, he really gives it. Like,
true.
It's almost offensive how like sexually aggressive his face is.
He was amazing. And then the other prop that I have here is I mentioned that the setup for the show was that they were in a theater that had just hosted the Hurt Locker the musical, and I remember as I was standing in line, one of the theater staff was like, if you see something on the ground, like pick it up. And I was like, what? And then I got into the theater and they had strewn all these like fake playbills around the theater. So I have a Hurt Locker, the musical playbill. It's just like a few pages. And they've put some past Hedwigs in there. So Taye Diggs is there. Michael Cerveris is there. As the cast. And then I was just looking through this before we started, and at the back there's like, how many of these shows have you seen? And they list a bunch of shows, and some of them are Container Store, the musical, Gravity on Ice, Streep No More, Tyler Perry is Medea, directed by Sir Tyler Perry, Cloink, the kitchen utensil percussive hit.
Okay, they all sound real,
right? The Entire Bible is another show. So this is fantastic.
That's
really
great.
Cool.
Do we need to check in on a friendometer? I'm feeling good.
Super green.
Got no issues with you guys this week. We'll see.
We'll see what happens
in the next one.
Week, Jen.
Oh, it's me. Okay, yeah, we'll see what happens next week.
What are we watching, Jen?
Get ready to put me in the red zone, guys. We are watching, finally, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, fuck.
Okay, which is hilarious, because I told Jen this, I think on Twitter, but I, up until, like, last month, thought that we were talking about The Blob. I thought The Thing and The Blob were the same movie, so I'm like, why are we so afraid of this? And also, like, it's a big old jelly blob, like, just walk away from it. No big deal. But now I don't know anything about this movie.
Oh, boy. All right, so next week we put our friendship with Jen to the ultimate test and we watch The Thing. Thanks so much for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at I Hate Your Taste or on Instagram at Hate Your Taste Pod. We also have a website. It is IHateYourTasteInMovies.wordpress.com, and there is a link there to our merch. Please leave us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. It really helps, and we'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much for listening. Bye.